Hey everyone, in this video I want to talk about a business concept that's very important and I think may help you if you're in your early stages when you're trying to find a profitable idea or you're really trying to figure out how business works, how money is exchanged, and you're trying to figure out how to position yourself to sell a certain product. And I think this is very, very important. And for people who don't understand why this is important, positioning in it of itself, just like changing how you, uh, you know, describe what you're doing, even if it's the same product or service, can lead to millions of dollars. It's the same thing you're selling, but because you position it in a different way, like we're doing this specifically for nannies so that you get time off work, versus we're doing this for nannies because nannies need help and I'm here to help you. Those sort of subtle positioning tactics can be resulting in millions of dollars of difference in profit. So what is this concept? The basic idea is that, and again, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they still think this, but I don't think it's a full picture. They think that in order to have a successful business or a successful profitable idea, business is all about exchanging of values and therefore solving of someone's big problem. So I hear this a lot with entrepreneurs, from small businesses to people who are quite successful, and I would say it's somewhat right, but it's not a full picture. And what they say is that in order to succeed in business, you have to find someone's burning problem or big problem and big issue that they want fixed, and you have to fix it for them. And you know, it works in a certain way. It ties back to how and what money is. Money is basically a form of currency, and it's basically you're exchanging your time, your energy, your value, which is in the form of your career or your uh, services, to get this money, and then you're exchanging that money to uh, give someone uh, for their services or products or goods. So it's basically this way of bartering without going through this, convoluted route of, oh, I'll exchange my milk for your blacksmithing tools. Oh, you don't need milk. Oh, I'm gonna have to find someone else to exchange it, and then I'll get back to you. Currency is basically this way of removing that complicated bartering system. It's effective, but in the process, people have kind of forgotten the whole idea behind what money and value is. So back to the big point. Um, a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs, their idea is that you have to solve a deep problem, a burning pain, and there is a bit of truth in this because, you know, a lot of people will pay more and they will definitely pay for a burning pain. Whereas, a lot of people are trying to find a profitable idea and they can't because it's not a burning enough pain and no one's willing to pay for that. So that's another huge problem. Now, here's where I come into the picture. Why I don't think it's a full picture of the entire thing is because that in addition to the fact that it's a, way of basically solving a problem, a big burning problem, it's also a way of simply exchanging values. And these values are your perceived values. So these are two critical and very important points. First, value does not necessarily mean burning, dire, life or death pain. A lot of people associate, problems with, oh, I have a health issue, I have a health illness, or I have plumbing issues, or, my arm got chopped off, I need that fixed, or I need car insurance because I keep crashing my car, or whatever it is. The point is, although those are important and those are ways of making money, those are businesses that can make money from these exchanges of value. On the flip side, in addition to that, there's also, uh, values that are not horrible pains, like watching television, being entertained, paying for a movie, playing video games, these are things that are not burning problems. It's not like, oh, I'm going to die if I do not play video games today, so therefore I have to buy a video game. It's not really a problem. It's a form of value. And as you see, if you observe real life, a lot of these people, their value system is a bit, skewed, and they overindulge. So they would spend a extreme amount of money on video games, and they'll have like 100 different video games stacked on the shelf. Like you see all the time on YouTube. There's a ton of YouTube gamer channels and anime channels and manga channels. You can search them up. And while they're making their videos, they have these bookshelves of video games behind them. So it's not really a, they're not, it's not a solving of a problem. It's a, value that's being given. And even in this sense, it's not truly a, burning life or death value either. It is sort of like a convenience. And, sometimes those things do really well, sometimes they don't, depending on the time era. It has to do with, well, basically, if we're in a recession or not, if that person can afford it. Right now, people are starting to forget about the recession that occurred, and they're spending a lot of money on, fun stuff that aren't really like necessities. So right now we are in a cycle, in the period in the cycle where these things are, in demand. Now that's very important also in terms of discovering your business idea or your product idea, because, you have to realize, is this thing a fad, or is this thing cyclic, or is this thing something that will stay for the long term? It could be a number of these things. Maybe it's cyclic, but that's okay. Maybe it's a seasonal thing where you do well in around Christmas because you're selling toys. But every year people are still going to buy toys, so you will still do well. And again, there's a lot of opinions on this. The guy from Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, he's like worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he knows a lot about business. In fact, I have one of his books here, and he basically said that he hates any type of seasonal business because it's such a pain, and you get no business in the spring or summer. It's all winter, and it's like it's so horrible and rushed. So you may have to take these things into account when you're looking for an idea. Now, again, just as a caveat, this next statement is for the people who they get overwhelmed. So you don't want to overcomplicate things and think too much into the future. You don't want to be thinking about, oh, what type of shoe should I get? What type of tennis racket should I get, when you can't even play tennis yet? You know what I'm saying? So these are things that may be of use to you, but don't worry yourself to death about them. Now, finally, the basic idea behind this is value has to be exchanged, and therefore you have to understand what type of value you have and how can you exchange that value. Right now, it's a very prosperous time, maybe the most prosperous in the entire history of human civilization, with YouTube just blowing up, people doing very well on YouTube, some of them even, living very profitably off their passions, playing video games or whatever else. I know a few YouTubers, they make a living off interviewing hot girls on beaches, overboard humor and simple, sexy, stupid. And they have YouTube channels that does that, which is quite incredible. And it's not as easy as it seems, but it is interesting. And there's, again, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Like that's pretty much one day of footage, and then like 2 or 3 days of editing, and then cutting that down. So it's a lot. It's not exactly just having fun with girls at the beach, but you get the idea. So the next thing is perceived value. So first is value, whether in the form of entertainment, information, whatever else. The next is in the form of perceived value. And what I mean by this is that value is a bit subjective, and it's not an objective thing. And you see this a lot in terms of scams. You know, people get scammed because they perceive the value of something to be something that it's not. And then once they finally get it, they realize it's not. And this is due to the fact that your perception of value really dictates how much you're willing to spend on it. And again, I've seen a lot of cases like this in real life too. I mean, just talk to your friends. I'm sure you know a friend who has spent maybe thousands of dollars on a product or service that you would not ever understand why anyone in their sanity would spend their time and money on. And it's about perceived value. To them, that's the value that this thing has, and they're more than willing to pay a tremendous amount for it. So if you can get into the head to that specific niche demographic, that specific niche population, you may be better able to pursue that population. And understanding this is huge as well, because when you get down to pricing and you're figuring out how to price a product, especially a product that you can literally price almost anywhere. You know, some products, especially if they're fixed goods, you have a small range of pricing. But if you have that ability to price it wherever, or you have a much more flexible range of pricing, if you understand pricing better and you understand how it works, then that's going to be different, because there's a lot of people, especially starting entrepreneurs and small businesses, they underprice their products because they don't know any better, and they're doing themselves a disservice because they're working so hard for it, and they end up screwing themselves over because they're pricing their book or their gadget at a price that's barely making ends meet for them, and making it seem for the customers like this product is not worth much, because there's that dilemma of perceived value there. And this goes into something more advanced, but the basic idea is that the customers see the product and they say, well, this is what it's priced at 19 bucks. It must be something cheap. It's probably not worth my time. It's probably low quality. And even if it's the most amazing knock out the park thing, because it's priced so low, they assume low quality. Again, this only works for specific industries. Like if you price a iPhone that low, people will know the value. But even then, there's a bit of human psychology at work. Very quickly, people will take that as a standard. They will say, okay, iPhones are $19, not $1,000. And that'll be the standard forever. So if you ever choose to raise the price, you're screwed, because you have now went from a very high price and dropped it to a very low price. So the lesson from that is to when you're price testing, you want to start low and increase, rather than start very high and then drop and then jump around. So again, I've rambled a bit. I've talked about a lot of different topics, but I think I've provided a tremendous amount of useful information. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this whole thing, go ahead and leave a subscribe and a like button. Hit that like button, and I'll see you in my next video. And again, if you want exclusive weekly tips and content, and you want the best of what I have to say on a weekly basis, you want to subscribe to my VIP email list, and I will leave a link in the description of this video to that. And I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.